The man. Yeah, the guy that's the gardener. If you're wondering where the heck am I tonight, looking a little bit of a different background, I am joining you from my hotel room. Yes, indeed, at Deerhurst Resort up in Huntsville is where I am. And if you're wondering the reason why I'm here, the reason why I'm here is that tomorrow morning live on Breakfast Television, we'll be connecting with you and broadcasting from Princess Margaret's beautiful cottage. And it's going to be the early bird deadline from that beautiful cottage in Muskoka. So I'll be doing that tomorrow morning. That's why I'm in Deerhurst this evening, that is. And I'm hopping on here for a half an hour just to kind of tell you a little bit about the world of gardening and maybe answer some of your garden questions. Hopefully you can hear me. Thumbs up. I think you should be able to because I am broadcasting from somewhere where I normally do not. So if you can't hear me, let me know. If thumbs up, let me know. You can always ask a question once again, just in the bottom of the comments section. Go there and you can ask any questions in the world of gardening. And I'm here to help you, and you. So just this past weekend, it was great to meet all those. And it's good. Marianne, thank you. Marianne, there you go. She's giving me a little bit of a thumbs up there. Let me know that she can hear me, which is fantastic. Just back to this weekend. Had a wonderful time at the Seasons show that happened on Saturday as well as on Sunday at the Fall Cottage Life Show. Talking a little bit about protecting your plants, a little bit about some of the upcoming Christmas trends as well. Kind of fun when it comes to some of the Christmas trend reports that are out there. And probably one of the biggest trends that I'm seeing this year in terms of Christmas is the color pink. And a lot that has to do with Barbie. Of course, you never have to be on trend, but it's always neat to see what the trends are there that could inspire you as well. Sue, giving me a shout out as well. Hi, Frankie, you're just all over the place. Yes, we can hear you. Thanks, Sue, as well. Sue, I know that you have an event coming up as well. If you want to post that on the Facebook Live so we can let people know about your event as well. We got Debbie who said, thanks you for the tickets I won. I hope you got to enjoy those as well as we gave tickets away last week to the Royal Winter Agricultural Fair. Let's talk a little bit about the garden right now. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening in your garden as we are going through in Southern Ontario. If you're watching us from across the country or even in the US, in Southern Ontario, we have another week of really above seasonal conditions. And with that, that's giving us still time. If you still have fall bulbs, you can still plant those. You can still plant garlic at this time. I'm getting people that are asking me questions about grass seed. I would stay away from grass seed at this time because grass needs a germination temperature of the soil of about 17 degrees. You can still lay sod down at this time. If you haven't done a fall fertilizer and you want to use the Scott's Turf Builder Fall Lawn Food, you can still do that. Once again, the reason why you do a fall lawn food is it actually puts a little bit more nitrogen into the blades of the grass. So that actually improves the sugars in the blades of grass. And we know if we had something in our freezer at home that has a high percentage of sugar, it doesn't freeze as solid. So with the little bit higher improved sugars that are in the blades of grass seed, in the blades of your grass, you actually will have a better lawn overall next spring. We got a question here this evening. I have a hydrangea, it never bloomed, just noticed buds on it. Now, should I trim it back or leave it? It will bloom next year. Cheryl, if it's never bloomed, in all likelihood, it's a large leaf hydrangea, which would be a macrophylla. The macrophylla hydrangeas or the large leaf hydrangeas bloom on old wood. That's why you're seeing the buds there right now. So all I would be doing is pruning it back to make sure that any heavy wet snow would not damage it, but leaving the bulk of it alone. Next spring, what you'll do is remove any dead wood. Then after the bloom period is when you will prune. But for some of those other varieties, like some of the piculatas, which are the cone-shaped varieties, and even some of the Annabella varieties, those ones bloom on new wood, and those are the ones that we prune out. But because you're seeing buds, it's never bloomed. I'm guessing that it's probably a large leaf, so I would just leave it alone. We got another comment and or question. We got somebody replying to Samantha's question. So let's go up there and see what Samantha's question was. I'm just going to pop up here because questions are coming in really questions. I think the question was poinsettia. If I have a cat, yes or no? Poinsettias are a fibrous plant that can make your cat quite sick. So if you have a curious cat, I would refrain from putting a poinsettia in your home. Or if you have a cat that just kind of leaves your plants alone, you can put it in your home. There's no problem with that. If your cat was to consume the poinsettia leaf, which generally it stays away from, but if it did, I would really recommend for you to call your vet, and probably you're going to have to visit the vet as well. Just let you know about Sue's event that's happening. Thanks, Franks. I'm doing an evergreen candle centerpiece workshop tomorrow at McKeckler Library from 4:30 to 5:30. Always so much fun working with evergreens as well. There's other workshops that you can probably do at your local garden centers, including my family garden center. We have some workshops as well at bradfordgreenhouses.com, bradfordgreenhouses.com, if you want to go with that. Ann Clarkson asking a question this evening about how do I keep my mandevilla over winter? So mandevilla are a patio tropical. So they are a plant that usually would find that would overwinter with ease in California, that would overwinter with ease in Florida or in the tropics themselves. When we bring it indoors, generally the reason why people will kill a plant like a mandevilla, bougainvillea, or even a hibiscus is just too much water, overwatering them. Really key is allowing it to dry out in between waterings. We're putting it in a bright room. We're not putting it directly in front of a window, but in an area where there's lots of light, away from heating vents, really important, away from heating vents. We're allowing it to dry in between waterings. We're giving it an occasional misting to add some more humidity. And if we could put a humidifier to the room, that'd be oh so perfect. And then what we'll do is in March, we'll start to begin fertilizing. When you bring the mandevilla indoors, a lot of the times you'll see that you're going to have leaf drop. The leaves drop. The reason for is it's adjusting to the light levels that are out there. So don't react by watering. Please allow it to dry in between watering. Super, super important. Here we go with another question from Ruth. Should we water our trees to help give extra moisture into winter? Leaves are almost gone. If we're going through dry periods, yes, indeed, watering. But if I look at the forecast, let's say that you're in Southern Ontario, we just had some rain last week. And as well on Friday of this week, we'll get some additional rain. If we went through a period where we had a period of really warm conditions, no frost in the ground, and it was 2 weeks without rain, I may do a deep watering at that time. If they're newly planted, doing a watering at least once a week would not do any harm, would actually do a lot of help overall, even though it's lost its leaves. We don't want it to go into winter sitting under stress. Another question. It was great to see you yesterday and meeting Gavin. He was working hard, taking those pictures and videos. Always learn something new with your presentations. Lori, thank you so much for coming as well. Yes, indeed, my son Gavin joined me yesterday at the Fall Cottage Life Show, where we did talk about protecting your plants. We talked a lot about rabbits. We talked about deer. We talked about bears. We talked about mice. And I'm glad that you learned. And always, whenever I do a talk as well, I learn as well. So that's always what's great. Bill Kennedy. Bill, how you doing? Hi, Frankie. Was able to visit Barrie Garden Center on Thursday. What a beautiful store. Amazing decorations. Congratulations for putting me in the festive mood. I'm glad that you got a chance to go up to Bradford Greenhouses in Barrie, the Barrie store that's there. I'm so proud of the work that's been done up there. So they've done a great job as well as in the Bradford location. My amaryllis are just sprouting now and hoping for the best. Johnny Lawler. I'm going to tell you, John, amaryllis is a fantastic flowering bulb that flowers when it's dark early. Look at the time, guys. We're just after 5 o'clock, and look at behind me in that window, no light. So without the amount of light, it's really hard to have anything inside our homes flower. But when we come to amaryllis, it's one that will bloom in pretty much darkness. So that plant, of course, is going to come, you're watering now and just starting to grow. It's going to grow up that spike, put a beautiful bloom on top of the spike. That bloom will then over time die back. And then you'll see that yellow stem, that green stem is going to turn yellow. At that time, you're going to cut it off and you're going to allow the leaves around the side just to sprout out. Once those leaves yellow, that's when you're going to remove the bulb from the soil and you're going to store the bulb so that we can have another amaryllis bloom for next year. Marianne giving another comment to this evening as well and replying. That's what I love, guys. The thing about this community, if you're new to the community this evening, what happens on this is as you're asking gardening questions, the people that join us with the community, they know the answers to some of these questions. So they're going to go in and tell you some different answers and give you recommendations. And that's the whole idea why we're here. So Ann Clarkson, I brought mine in the house after spraying with Bug Be Gone. So yeah, that's the other thing about when you are bringing in things like mandevilla, and thanks for bringing that up as well. When you're bringing plants in like mandevilla and we're bringing plants in like hibiscus, using an insecticidal soap like an Ortho Bug Be Gone Max, that is not harmful for the indoors, safe to use indoors. But what that's going to do is make sure that any of the aphids or any other insects that are sitting on that plant, that we're going to reduce those or minimize them or knock them out so we're not going to have problems indoors as well. Carol, hello. Almost missed the live feed. Few made it in time from Quebec. Carol, thanks for joining as well. Let me know what you guys think about Monday nights at 5. You guys let me know, and hopefully it's bringing some value. And maybe you're just driving home from your commute this evening. Maybe you're not driving home, hopefully, but maybe you're on the GO train coming home from work. Depends. If you're in the Atlantic provinces, of course, you're a few hours ahead. If you're in the Western provinces, this is a nice afternoon. So this time, depending upon where you're watching us from across the country, hopefully will work for you as well. Another little comment from Sue replying to Samantha. I have cats and dogs and I have poinsettias, but I get the small ones from Bradford greenhouses and put them on a higher shelf. That's a good idea as well. And Sue, thanks for giving the plug for the Green Family Greenhouse there as well. Chris, good evening, Frankie. Help I need. Creeping Charlie is back on my lawn. Hate when Creeping Charlie's there. We dug it up a foot deep, put down new sod, and it's all back. Is there anything I can do before snowfall to jump ahead of it for next spring? So Creeping Charlie indeed is a perennial weed. The issue with Creeping Charlie is because it is a perennial weed, it will come back. The winter weather will not knock it back or kill it back. So hand removal is key. So if you do have some time and you can remove some of that top growth, a reminder, the more that you can remove that top growth, let your lawn next spring grow a little bit taller so that we can shade it out and not give it the energy that it needs, because we need to suffocate that foliage to starve it from life down at the root zone. There are no real good herbicides that will work effectively on Creeping Charlie that are available in Ontario and really across the country due to cosmetic pesticide bans. I wish I had an easier thing, but I would just do as much hand removal as possible at this time. And then next spring, allow that lawn to grow a little bit taller. I would fertilize your lawn in early spring as well, because what we want the lawn to do is become the thickest, most healthiest. And then by leaving a little bit taller, we'll actually starve out some sunlight towards the foliage of the Creeping Charlie. How often do cactus need feeding with fertilizer, Marianne? Depends on the variety of cactus as well during the winter months. So from October, well, when we have very little daylight, from October to March, we really don't need to be fertilizing whatsoever. And really, when it comes to cacti, there are cacti fertilizers. You'll see some of the Miracle Grow cacti fertilizers at most from the month of March all the way through to October. I'd be doing a feeding of about once a month, just a really light feeding on that as well. We have another question from, I think it's Sonia. Hi, Frankie. Just outside putting my Christmas lights. Quick question. My hibiscus is dropping its leaves. Is the same advice as mandevilla? Yes, indeed. So it's probably dropping its leaves because it's adjusting to your indoor light levels, and it's also adjusting itself to the lack of light. If it's too much water, if it's overwatered, it'll drop its leaves as well. So please, if I encourage you, feel the soil. If the soil feels moist whatsoever, allow it to thoroughly dry out. Another reminder, we're putting it away from heating vents. A lot of times people will actually put it close to the window, but that's right where your heating vents usually are. We don't want to put it by a heating vent because it'll adjust the temperature. It needs to be away from a heating vent and bright light, and it'll do fine for you as well. Cheryl, thank you for answering about my hydrangea. I hope it flowers next year. I hope so too. If it doesn't flower next year, you'll see one of my Instagram videos that I did is that if you're having a plant that each and every year, you're really not seeing it give you anything back, it's really important for you to maybe do something else. Select something that's a better variety. One of my favorite varieties is Limelight hydrangeas that would work out really well for you. Sherry has a question here. Oh my, 6 mice so far. We back onto the Scarborough Meadow for 39 years. Never had a problem. Poor little fellows. So yes, there are, like Tomcat actually has a high-pitched sonar that you can actually plug in to the interior of your home or even in your garage where sometimes mice will go. That high pitch will sometimes discourage them out of the area as well. So that's one way that we can discourage them. We also got to think to ourselves, if they're coming inside the house, how are they gaining entrance into the house? And by blocking that entrance, it can be really beneficial as well. We have another question here from Natalia. Hi, Frankie. My daffodils started sprouting last week. Is that going to ruin them for spring? Not at all. I live in Chatham original. I'm in Chatham now and originally from Barrie. So no, don't worry about it. They'll be completely fine. That's why we really do want to plant them a little bit later on before ground frost. But normally by this time of the year, some areas like Barrie would have ground frost. Chatham's a little bit warmer, of course, because you're now more in southwestern Ontario. So you're gaining yourself almost 7 to 10 days of grow time, of extra grow time, meaning during the growing season by just living there. Okay, so we have Another question from Carol. I have a new bonsai, which is supposed to be a juniper. It did well in the deck all summer. I brought it inside for winter, and Winnipeg winters are very cold. How do I take care of it? So Carol, the issue with that juniper, and it might be a cypress. So we need to determine whether it's a juniper and or cypress. So you can take a picture of it, send it to me, Frankie@frankieflowers.com. If it is a juniper, we're going to need it to go into a dormancy period, which means that it will need to go into an area that's going to be fairly cool. And a lot of the times with some of the bonsai, a lot of times you'll even be digging a hole, burying them in a hole in the ground outdoors. If you actually had a cantina or fruit cellar, and putting that down there for a month to 2 months is really beneficial, making sure that it's watered. That'll allow it to go into its dormancy period. Depends. A lot of the times, though, the bonsai that you think would be a juniper could be a cypress that appear to look like a juniper. If they are cypress, the cypress doesn't necessarily need to go into a dormancy period. Cypress will always benefit from a cooler evening. So if you have a room where you can put them and it's bright but gets a little bit cooler at night, super important for them. And humidity is key as well. So take a picture, Frankie@frankieflowers.com. Matthew, hi Frank. Hi Matthew, how you doing? Jen, happy Monday. Who needs 7 Mile Beach when you have us? I am obsessed with getting every last leaf out of our grass to prevent grass damage. Yes, indeed. So the other thing too is, when you're getting the leaves off your lawn, using a lawnmower with a mulching blade can also really be beneficial. So even if you had leaves all over your lawn and then you went to go cut the lawn and you're mulching those leaves up with a mulching blade, as long as we're seeing enough, like significant amount of blades of grass after the mulch is done, after we mulch that lawn, and we have that nice kind of carbon, which that dried leaves are carbon. So that dried carbon, then we get and then even if you were to do that mulching of the lawn, you put a fall fertilizer down. That fall fertilizer, the nitrogen, will help to break down that carbon, add and benefit the soil underneath, and then we have a beautiful snow load. Boom, we're pretty good. So the key is with leaves is as long as we're seeing foliage, and we're seeing the blades that is of the lawn coming through, we're good. But if we see it matting down, that's when we're going to have dieback on our lawn. My Christmas cacti is in bloom, says Carol Jones. Amazing. Christmas cacti, just as a reminder, is a plant that blooms due to the shortness of days. So as our days are getting shorter, so today, for instance, the sunset in the city of Toronto and even up here in Huntsville, that is, Huntsville, Ontario is where I am right now, sunset was just after about 4:40 p.m. Yeah, that shortness of days makes the buds trigger, but also that Christmas cacti wants a cool evening that will also help the triggers and even allow it to dry out in between waterings where you're starving it a bit, will allow it to trigger into bloom. But they are beautiful, and Christmas cacti can outlive the average cat. They can live centuries. They don't live centuries. They can live decades with ease, by the way. Ashley Brown, for my good friend that has a wonderful bike shop up there in really the Crank and Sprocket. Hi, Frankie. My amaryllis comes back each and every year, but doesn't flower. It's in a sunny south-facing spot, 20 degrees. The soil is up halfway on the bulb. I get about 18 inches of green leaves, but no flowers or stems, just leaves. Any idea? Maybe time to get rid of that bulb. There are times when the bulbs all they'll do is become a dud and they'll just put out foliage, no flower. And if you're having that after a couple seasons, I would probably put more energy into a new one versus trying to do that one. So it's just putting its foliage up. It's just basically not going to go into bloom. And sometimes that does happen overall. Christina, let me go back to Christina here. Christina, hi, Frankie. How far apart to plant incredible hydrangeas? So the incredible hydrangeas get quite large. They can get, when they're at their maximum height, get about 6 feet. And even as well, they can become 6 feet in width. What I would do is put them on from a center spacing to a center spacing, a minimum of 4 feet, but a maximum, if you want them to grow in like a hedge over time, you put them a maximum of 6, between 4 to 6 feet as a center to center. Is it too late? Is it too late to say I'm sorry? Is it too late in the season to trim yews? Says Jacqueline. I wouldn't. And the reason being is by pruning them now, and if we got a cold temperature, we could do a little bit of harm. I would wait till the spring, till when we're starting to see active growth outdoors, and I'd be doing a pruning at that time. Sherry, hello, Frankie. Why is my Christmas cactus blooming now? And how do I get a 100-year-old Christmas cactus to bloom? Been 5 years at least since it has. So the Christmas cactus is blooming now just based upon the amount of overcast days. A reminder This summer season in Southern Ontario was one of the grayest summer seasons that we've ever seen. So lack of daylight. That lack of daylight, the plant itself will trigger itself just based upon the hours of daylight it receives or doesn't receive. And it's blooming now because it just didn't get that light. The other reason why that 100-year-old Christmas cacti is most likely not blooming is it's probably really pot bound, maybe needs to be repotted. The other part too is with that other Christmas cacti, we can take some sections and create more Christmas cacti off that. And we're always going to see the younger variety, the younger sections, like we're going to be propagating the cacti, the Christmas cacti, removing the sections, allowing them to almost dry and callus, sticking them in the soil, and then they will root, and we're going to put them in a cactus soil. Miracle Grow does also have a great cactus soil. But with that, the older varieties the older Christmas cacti are a little bit struggling more to bloom. So repotting, one thing, and then also doing some propagation for some new ones to bloom a little bit more easier and better for you as well. That's interesting. Thank you. I try to be interesting, by the way. Hi, Frankie. TJ. What's going on, TJ? Hi, Frankie from beautiful Kawartha Lakes. I will be tomorrow in Baysville. That's where the new cottage is for the Princess Margaret. So that's the reason why I'm in Huntsville this evening. Tomorrow morning on Breakfast Television, I will be out showing you the cottage that you could win with Princess Margaret Home Lottery. The early bird deadline is on Friday, so I'm going to be doing some promotions up there. Once again, Princess Margaret does all the efforts to try to help people while they're fighting through cancer and also finding a cure for cancer. And for those that don't know, that in 1998, my brother passed of cancer. It's called Ewing sarcoma. So if there's anything in the world that I can do to try to minimize the pain that cancer does to people and to families, that's what I'm going to do. So Marlene, I was gifted an orchid for Mother's Day. The flowers are gone. It looks like the roots are trying to escape. Do I need to put it in a clear plastic container? What do I use for soil? So those roots that are trying to escape are air roots, and those air roots are pretty good. Those air roots actually gain oxygen and humidity. So generally the orchid, if you just got it at Mother's Day, you probably most likely do not need to repot it, but you would repot it with an orchid soil. Miracle Grow also has an orchid soil. In order to allow an orchid to bloom, what we have to do is we have to stress the orchid. So we have to basically don't fertilize it, don't water it, and we almost wait till that foliage, the leaves on it turn a yellowish green. So we're starving it for a period of time, allowing those leaves to turn yellowish green. We've already removed the spike that's down. As soon as they turn a little bit yellowish green, then we start to improve some of the watering. So we start to water again, a little bit of fertilizing. That should set the spike there for you. A cooler night is also important, and humidity, spraying, misting, that orchid is also important. But during the period where we're stressing it, no mist, no spray, cutting back on water, I'll wait till that foliage turns a little bit yellowish green, then you're going to do that. Puts it through a plunge period. The reason why it does set a bloom after that is it thinks to itself that it may die. The way it reproduces is through its flowers. And so when it thinks it's going to die, it thinks that, hey, I need to reproduce to survive my species for more years to come. We have another comment out here. My Christmas cacti is blooming now too, based upon how dark of a year we've had. If you're feeling gloomy and gray, get yourself some vitamin D, because Mother Nature this year has not been giving us as much vitamin D as we need. Angela, hi Frankie, you're the best. Thank you. And Angela's asking, how are you? Thumbs up, thumbs up. I'm hungry. I'm going to go for dinner after this. That's how I am. Just going to totally tell you exactly how I'm feeling. Ruth, I want to make a tulip planter, put outside in a pot, in the ground, or in a fridge to get a cold spell. So what I would do is, if you want, take a pot right now, and in that container, that pot, you can plant all your tulips in that in potting soil. Then you can sink that pot. So you can either put it, if you had a fruit cellar, you can put it down in the fruit cellar, no dark, cool temperatures, just put it in this fruit cellar. And then what you'll do is you're going to pull it out near the mid to end of February, and then boom, you'll be fine. But if you didn't have a fruit cellar, what you can do is take that pot, sink it into the ground outside. And then as soon as the snow melts, and we get a little bit of the ground frost out, you can just pull that pot right out of the ground and then put it into wherever you want. And then you can enjoy your tulip planter at that. What's nice about putting it into the ground outdoors is that ground around it will insulate it. The snow on top will also insulate it, put it through its plunge period, and boom, you'll be off to the races. Is it too late to add grass seed? I would not add grass seed at this time. If you have grass seed that's in your home and you have extra, you can throw some down. You're not going to get complete germination on that just based upon temperature. Some will germinate. possibly if you have warmer temperatures now, but some of it would sit dormant and then germinate in the spring. But I would be more inclined to leave it to be broadcasting it in the spring because, once we have some heavy rains that could happen during even November, even into the spring, or even some of the snow that could wash away, and then also birds can eat that grass seed as well. We got another reply that Ruth's giving a reply out there to Michelle. Yes, sod only, grass seed needs 17 degrees. Beautiful. That's right. It's all right, guys. People are joining here at different times. I have 2 mugo pines. So mugo pine is actually almost like a global pine. It's a smaller, more foundation planting. Really nice. Previous owners never trimmed them, so quite large. Not so good in the middle. How much can I trim them back? Like to take off about 1.5 feet. So I wouldn't be pruning them back by more than a third. And then if they're over about 15 to 20 years in age, they're probably past their prime. And instead of trying to get them back to a nice, more manageable size, you may consider removing them because they tend to become very weak and tired once they get over 15 to 20 years. And everything has a lifespan, including those guys. Eve, hello, Frankie. Thank you for all your knowledge. What are your thoughts about neem oil to treat thrips indoors? I don't know where they came from. No new plants, so would appreciate some tips. So neem oil, good luck finding it, first off, because it was delisted on the cosmetic pesticide ban. Neem oil as well on thrips won't really be as effective with thrips because thrips sometimes will be hiding within the buds of your flower or within the plant. Bug Be Gone is an insecticide that can help you out with some of the thrips. But really, if you have one plant with thrips, I would actually put it to one area away from other plants. It's going to be very hard. Thrips is a very hard insect to control, even if it's in a greenhouse environment. We do have some biocontrols that we use, which are other insects that we release to take care of the thrips, but those are really not available for consumers that are out there. There's a product called Endol as well, which is a miticide. Sometimes getting a miticide can be of help for that as well. But I would really, first off, start to treat with Bug Be Gone. So, and once again, neem oil is one that, if you can find it, it's something that right now, because it's delisted, hard to find, and really with thrips, not effective, in my experience. Thanks, Frank, says Ashley. You're welcome. Lucky, I have a gift for Bradford Greenhouse. Thanks for your knowledge. Good gift card to have there. There's lots of amaryllis up there. When you walk right into the entrance of the berry store, turn to your left, you'll see a little small greenhouse built inside. Within that greenhouse, that's where the amaryllis is. We have another question here this evening as well from Debbie. I put a very sad looking Christmas cactus outside this summer, replanted it, and it grew beautifully and now is in my house with new blooms. That's one of the best things people can do with those Christmas cacti is in the summer months, if you put it out in part sun outdoors, it gets beautiful humidity, it gets all natural light. Then just as the fall temperatures come and when we're starting to see those temperatures drop to about 5 degrees at night, that's when you bring it indoors, place it into a bright room, put it in a room that you do not turn the light on, so like a spare bedroom. And as soon as it sets its buds, then you can bring it anywhere through your house and it'll be in bloom. It's the easiest way to get them to rebloom, but also they thrive. They love it because of the beautiful natural humidity outdoors. And also, they will do better because outdoors, outside of your house, you're going to have a warm day, cool night, warm day, cool night. That's typical kind of summer type weather and even into late fall. And that's ideal to give them the rest periods that they need that are out there. We have another question here. Frankie, can you bring in summer ferns? My 2 are so green and looking great. So Sherry, ferns, there's the Christmas, probably if there's Boston, and then there's Kimberly Queen ferns. Both of those, you can try bringing them indoors. They tend to struggle inside because our heaters are on our home and they're just really dry. So you can bring them inside. You want to put them into a room that's nice, natural, bright light, away from any heating vents. Water them when they're dry. Mist them. If you can mist them even every day, a little bit of misting would add humidity, or even better yet, add a humidifier to the room that they're in. And that would be very, very, very important. Miriam saying, hi, Frankie, can you please tell me passion flower, passion fruit are the same? I've already emailed you. Please need your expert advice. Yes, indeed, they are the same. There are different varieties, though. So the passion flower, the one that we see, it will put a fruit on, but that fruit will be one that, even though it's sweet, it's full of seeds. There's another variety that they'll do in production to give you the nicer size fruit. So the ornamental passion fruit will give you a passion flower, that is, will give you a fruit that is edible, but it's not the size of the one that you would want, that the one that you would see at your grocery store. Queen Yuma. Carol. Hi, Frankie. Valley Direct has created a platform. Oh, whatever. Okay, that's somebody that, you know what we got to do with this one here? We got to block user. Boom. Okay, they'll block because that's somebody trying to use our community to be bad. Yeah, there's a lot of bad apples out there, guys. We're going to take one more question here because we're at 30 minutes. My hanging baskets are still blooming. Like, I just bought them. Should I keep watering? Yes. If they're still blooming and keep watering, we haven't had frost, enjoy. Enjoy. Water. Don't fertilize because of the shortness of days, and they're not going to need that much watering. And the reason why they don't need that much watering is their days are not that long. So they're probably not, they'll need half the amount of watering that they would during the summer. For all those that join me this evening from Deerhurst Resort up here in Huntsville, great. Thank you very much. I hope you have a blooming good evening as well. Tomorrow morning, the reason why I'm here, I will be live at the Princess Margaret Home Lottery Cottage, which is the part of the early bird draw, the early bird deadline on Friday. So you'll see me at that cottage tomorrow morning on Breakfast Television if you want to check it out. And have a great evening.